I think that's something. First time we've been able to have an actual cannabis business and education seminar here in North Carolina. But very soon, I think this is going to be more of a normal thing that we'll start to see.
Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Me too. As obviously an African American, this is something that hits me, every day. Basically going out anywhere in the country, but especially in the South. This is something that basically takes away rights from people. The fact that I have an excuse to search your car now, right? I think we all have heard that rationale before. I smell something, so it's time to search your car. I have to, can I search your car? Once that's off the table, we're talking about a different ballgame. My friends were talking about people that that I know, starting businesses and hiring people. That's huge. I'm so excited for what's going to come in 2015, but even in 2014, we've seen this Washington come up this past month and raise millions of dollars for their state. Millions. The school systems there have their programs funded for the next 60, 70 years in states like Colorado. Here in Tennessee and Knoxville, for example, we've heard lots of messages about how we've got to cut programs. We've got to cut healthcare programs. We've got to cut police programs. We've got to cut education. Why is it and how is it that other states are adding to their coffers the same thing that we're spending so much money to police? I've been asking questions of people in Knoxville and around the surrounding areas just like that for the past couple of months since I've been working with East Tennessee Normal. For our group, the big problem we run into a lot is the fact that a lot of the people who are supportive of the movement are Muslim. I don't know if you've ever dealt with that. Somebody who's willing to come to your meetings, send you emails, be on Facebook, and all those fun things. But when it's time to come speak at, let's say, a friend's trial, they can't do that. Their job won't let them do that. Their livelihood depends on that public image that still people think this being involved in this industry will detract from that. Business leaders like yourselves are going to be the first step to take away from that whole stigma and change the game for us. So again, I want to give you guys a hand. We've got doctors here, we've got veterans here, we've got business leaders here. We're not the hippies in the corner, right, getting high and taking away from our society in some way. That's just not who it is anymore. Mr. Perry Parks, a person that you're going to meet very soon, is somebody that I love to see that image of the soldier who's willing to tell you, I use cannabis and it helps me. Perry's not afraid to say that. I watched a video the other day where he said, this is how it helps me. If a person wants to do anything to me about that, go ahead. That kind of bravery is unprecedented. In this industry, that kind of bravery is essential. So I want to thank Mr. Perry Parks again for doing that. And a lot of the other leaders that we've seen kind of emerge over the past couple of years. It takes somebody just having the heart to do it, is what it comes down to. And all too often, if the money incentive is not there, people aren't going to do it. That's why businesses are needed in this industry. Can't be all advocates. I'm happy to be an advocate. I'm happy to go fight for the cause. But at some point, there has to be money changing hands. Somebody actually making a better way for themselves. And that's why things like this are again essential. So today I want to tell you all about basically the challenges that we face in the South versus other regions like, let's say, the West Coast, where this industry has been fully accepted. If you go to the state of California, there are people going out there every day starting businesses, making millions of dollars. There's no problem with saying I'm a cannabis courier in a state like California. However, here in Tennessee, saying that you want to start, let's say, a hemp business, we just got hemp in Tennessee, legalized. Nobody's really taken that lead yet because there's still that stigma there. So it takes people in surrounding areas like here in North Carolina starting these businesses, starting to make that money to really take away from that stigma and make it possible for us as well. Now, before I get into what I want to talk about today, I want to ask you guys, what is the thing that is the hardest part of being in this industry right now? What stops your friends from coming out and joining you? Perry, I'll ask you, what's the biggest barrier?
Probably the threat to employment.
Threat to employment. Todd, what about you?
Fear, just straight out fear.
How about some of our other guests here?
What neighbors and friends are going to think or say about you?
I'd say sheer laziness.
Like,
Not wanting to get out and actually do anything.
that's a big one.
family, kids. That's
Image.
huge.
Especially for moms.
Yeah, that's huge for me.
That is gigantic. That's a huge point because even in states like Colorado, where we now have it legal, there's still CPS there that may come and take your children.
Right, that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear.
It never ends. There's still a normal in Colorado. People think that they won the fight, it's all over, there's nothing else to worry about. No, this is a never-ending fight.
It's all about complacency and fear. And we're sheeple.
Well, and not
I
for
had to
nothing,
throw that in.
ignorance.
But
You know, I think our society has been trained for so long since the Nixon era to believe that drugs are bad and okay, and that marijuana is a drug, Schedule 1, no medicinal use. They just don't know. I mean, I have been a cannabis enthusiast my whole life as far back as I can remember, but it wasn't until 5 years ago that I actually learned about it and, you know, learned jaw-dropping information that people just don't know. They did know it. They, you know, generally when I have had the chance to speak with seniors or moms on the topic, they've all been, really? I did not know that, and changed their views, and that's why our movement is moving so quickly, you know, so.
Speak out, that's what holds us back. Don't listen. You can imagine, it makes tons of people see what's on the system. And won't come out, they won't speak out, because they're scared. It's all about fear, it's all about.
It just takes somebody breaking that ice, stomping on that ice and
More
saying,
scared from the insurance companies and their jobs than they are from the cops. Those people will stop.
once businesses exist that are again hiring people, paying taxes, making their society around them a better place, just as a basic statement. Once those things are something that you know about this business in your community, I grow weed, literally saying those words out loud, I grow weed, I pay this much in taxes, I make this much a year. Once that's actually possible, that stigma just breaks down. It's the same thing with our brothers and sisters in the gay rights movement. Again, I'm with the Tennessee Progressive League. I don't know if anybody's heard of that before, but yeah, I'm one of those evil liberals. Well, us evil liberals think that it's a wonderful thing that our fellow Americans who happen to be gay are beginning to get more equal rights. That's becoming a real thing, and that snowball became an avalanche within 1 or 2 years. We need to emulate that kind of progress. We need to have people in Congress who are familiar with us, who are happy to actually work towards things being changed for us, and we're getting more and more of that ever so slowly, ever so slowly. So that's why this November, we gotta remember that when it's time to vote for your local representative, your local senator, your congressman. Is this person somebody who's ever even touched the subject of marijuana business? Or is this a person who's kind of obfuscated away from that? More of those people that have obfuscated away need to make it clear you're not going to get our vote if you do that this year. Not this year. Because again, we've seen other states where that progress is a real thing that's really happening. Let me ask you guys this. What's the most successful marijuana business that you've ever heard of right now?
Venice Cookie Company.
What is it?
Venice Cookie Company
Where's that?
in Venice, California. Big medicinal cookery, bakery.
How about anybody else?
Harborside,
Where's this?
California, the show Weed Wars, Steve D'Angelo, his shops.
Gotcha. So the East Coast still doesn't have that name brand. Look around this room today. Just look around at some of the faces. One of the people in this room is going to be the person who owns that brand coming up, right? People in this room are going to be those business leaders you're dealing with in the next 5, 10 years. Because we're here ground level. I don't know if you ever heard of a conference called Comic-Con. Y'all ever heard of Comic-Con? Years ago, that was just a group of sweaty nerds. I'm a comic book fan, right? They would be in a hotel somewhere, there'd be 10 people in a room, they talk about comic books all day, nobody paid attention. If you look at Comic-Con this year, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. This is a huge opportunity for businesses to come and advertise their products, talk about their media, talk about their outreach programs. They have advocates there. So that kind of transformation is something that is very possible, and we've seen happen in other places. So again, thank you guys for coming out and not being afraid to talk about your willingness to either use, produce, have a business that is based solely on cannabis. It's something that's not possible for a lot of people out of that same fear we just discussed. So I'm going to tell you guys about NORML. I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of NORML. I assume so, right? But for anyone who doesn't know, NORML is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Now that's an important phase to this entire movement, because without a change to the laws, of course, our businesses are not possible. Our advocacy becomes a lot harder when you're starting from the premise this is a crime, right? We've seen a little bit of progress in Tennessee in terms of next year we're actually going to have CBD oil produced by the state of Tennessee. That's huge for us. People with epilepsy in Tennessee are going to have access to those actual plants with high CBD content.
Who in Tennessee is authorized under your bill to produce it?
It's going to be actually grown at Tennessee Tech University, and the study is going to be conducted at Vanderbilt University.
Is there a pharmaceutical company in charge of that study by any
That's the first
chance?
question, isn't it? Right now, it's going to be wholly done by the universities. So
That's the problem that we have with our law that just recently passed.
Let me be more familiar with
I don't want to misspeak on all the details because I will tell you I wasn't familiar with it and I kind of turned blind to it when I saw that the pharmaceutical industry was involved. But the bill that we recently passed is for CBD oil as well, but it's specifically, I believe, for only like 30 families named specifically, and it may be under the, through a university, but there's a pharmaceutical company, and I'm not sure which one, that's actually in charge of it.
Gotcha. In Tennessee, they
Yes,
say
thank
they
you.
have 200 patients that have access. Is that GW Pharmaceuticals
Yes.
that was doing that study? Now, GW is an interesting case because, yes, it is a corporation, and of course in the United States we're very leery of letting any control really go to the corporations. It's burned us before. However, GW Pharmaceuticals research and the money that they're putting into that research is a legitimizing kind of factor now. Because when people say, you've heard this, we need more studies, we just don't know enough, we need more studies. Well, this multinational corporation feels like this is a great opportunity, we've got lots of research, they spend lots of money on it. So yes, you want to be leery of those corporations taking too much control, but you also want those corporations to start dumping a little bit of money
True,
into it.
true.
It's validation.
True.
So,
A
I mean,
fine
it's
line
delicate
between
balance.
monopoly and validation.
Yeah, and
The
they
other side
have
of
money
that
and
coin is,
resources.
the more
You
they
know,
start
the
spending money, the more profitable they become.
Right.
Other corporations get in now.
But still, I mean, your closet grower couldn't still produce his own medicine here.
And that's part of where we've got to get. We've got to get it to the point where, like Colorado, each one of us could have 12 plants. We could have 6 patients that we're taking care of. We could hybrid, mix some strains and come up with something new to bring to the market, for example. That's coming in the next couple of years, I think. I think we've got to get to the point where, first of all, we're accepted at all. So getting over that hurdle is important. I think GW can be really crucial to that. So, got to stay vigilant, though. You're right. Now, that was the company I was going to mention, actually, GW Pharmaceuticals. But entire countries are getting to this. I don't know if you guys know this, but Israel has a thriving medical marijuana program, wholly paid for by the state. All the patents that they come up with wholly are owned by the state. So once countries start to see, there's a lot of money in this, I think that dynamic changes. We see more companies getting involved.
The sad thing is there was a press release from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that marijuana, cannabis, would now be available to anyone who needs it. They could grow it, use it, or whatever. They're now using not only vaporized cannabis in hospitals, but they're allowing smoked cannabis in restaurants. One restaurant in particular which caters to cannabis treatments. And the other thing on the CBD oil that we pay, are you from North Carolina?
No.
No? Okay, the CBD oil we passed, I believe, and if I'm not, is that right, Chris? You can buy it by the barrel overseas, right?
Buy it online,
I think they
buy it
should.
online.
You can buy that one.
I don't know if it's the same strength or not,
But
but
you
it's,
get
But
on.
they
want
you to go to
But
the
essentially the same product.
Yeah.
And
buy
it's
it
like,
online, it is nothing.
you can buy a hemp t-shirt here, but
Right.
you cannot make it in the United States. So you can make the hemp oil overseas and you can order it here. regardless of what the law says.
Yeah, but
get
are you
one
dealing with
marked by
shipping
that
and importation?
Nipple by the gallons online. If it's the same product, you can get it.
Go to Blue
They'll
Line.
mail it right to you.
Top research, the same stuff. You go on, you could go online and buy the stuff they
Comes
just
from
passed.
UK.
You could do that 6 months ago.
I think it's gonna hit home for you, Perry, is.
But, you know,
so
is there a
the IDF
signal
has PTSD. comes
putting your
on.
name
He's
down
got
for
access,
shipping?
right? He served his country. They see him as a valuable part of their society. They take care of their soldiers. Simple statement, right? You would think the United States would kind of follow that precedent. But I think Perry's going to get onto that issue. Now, coming up next, we've actually got Mr. Perry Parks, who's going to tell you a little bit more about those issues, tell you about a little bit about his background. Your man.
I know several people in the room, of course, from the work around North Carolina. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to CPU for stepping out and taking a chance. I'm not going to say they got bitten, but they didn't make a good profit on this one. The people in this room who have an interest in this subject need to step up for the next. Call your next door neighbor, call your friend, and try to get them. The second thing I want to do is I want to make a confession. My wife tells me I'm the worst communicator in the world, and she's partially right. So my confession is, I stand before you as a well-dressed hippie.
Yeah.
I say that because people misunderstood what it means to be part of a tribe. For 5 years, I was a homeless veteran. I lived first in my car and then finally sold that and lived in my backpack. And then finally, the Lord hit me in the head and said, turn around, son. You're going the wrong way. And what I found, and the reason I say this so much about hippies, is because when you talk to people, if you're in your tribe, and by your tribe I mean your scout troop, your family, your Sunday school class, your bridge club, well, not here. But anyway, the people that you know that trust you. Now you can talk to them about cannabis or whatever. You can talk to them usually about anything and they will listen to you. But if you walk in to a stranger or to someone you're trying to impress, and they're not of the same persuasion, especially if they're a victim of the government propaganda, some of the most effective propaganda that's ever been devised, then what happens, and I'm a psychology major, what happens is a thing called the RAS, the reticular activating system. That's what alerts you to something strange going on. You know, if you're asleep at night, somebody snaps a twig outside, you wake up, that's the RAS. Well, the RAS to an uneducated person immediately shuts down the brain if you look different than them. And that's the only reason that I have these clothes on. I promise you, anybody that knows me will see me in shorts and a t-shirt. As a matter of fact, I got my t-shirt on with this. That said, I don't know what to do first. I'm going to give you the good news first. Because this is a small crowd, and we're a first-timer, we didn't get a lot of publicity, but we do have one real good advantage. Bob Melody's coming in, and he serves on the board of the Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access. Michael Crowich is the executive director of Bob and the MCA. Michael Crowich is an international activist for about 15 years. He's been quoted. He's had a limousine pick him up in his home in Virginia and drive him to New York to be on Fox News to talk about cannabis. He is probably going to be